Dang, man, it's been a while. I must admit, Mike, what? It's been about a month, right? Maybe a month and a half.
Feels like a month for sure.
Man, I'm saying, so it is good to finally back for another episode of the Nation80 podcast. This is episode 35. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Rod. I'm here with Mike. Mike, how's everything going?
I'm doing well, Rodney. Excited to be back for the show. It's been way too long. I was getting little antsy. Every time something comes out in a week or something like that, I'm like, man, I really want to talk about something. And next thing you know, something comes up, and you got to do the adult thing. So, but glad to be back.
Yeah, man, it just always seemed like scheduling was off, right? And then I must admit, to our detriment, me and you waiting to the last minute to ask if we're going to record or not, right? When I mean the last minute, I mean within hours, right?
Hours, like literally hours.
When we were going to record, because you sent me, I was up talking to somebody this morning, and then I see your message, and I was like, oh yeah, finally I'm up at a time where I can possibly record. Compared to other times, I
Hmm.
wake up after I receive the text if we're recording or not. So it's all good though. But it's great to get back. It's great to get back into it because this is something I do love dearly. Is getting an opportunity to talk basically geek culture with my cousin. So, and I hope to possibly have some additional guests come kick it with us within the coming weeks as well, because some
For
cool
sure.
stuff. So like always, let's start what we always do with what we've been digging, but let's change it this because we usually do it for the week. But what we've been digging since the last episode and all this other stuff, right? And I'm going to start this one off because it's been kind of fun filled a little bit for me, when especially when I get some free time. So in Hawaii, we had the annual Kauai Con here. It's an anime convention, and so I got an opportunity to finally go. It's been around every time for all the years I've been here, but I just hadn't made it out there. And this time I went out there, and funny enough, I went there without my kids, and I had a blast. Right now, look, it's always fun to go with your kids, but I have a 5-year old and I have an 11-year old, and of course they're gonna want to sprint every direction as they're looking for stuff. And this time I got to go with a lot of my coworkers who love anime just as much as I do. And they were holding video game tournaments upstairs as well. So we got to kind of check that out. And the cool part about this is they had an open bar at the convention,
Oh,
right?
nice.
So let's just say your boy, I won't say I was hammered, but I was pretty nice the whole right through. So shout out to Beatbox Wine, because those are pretty tasty.
Mm.
Got it might be a fruity drink, but this is not a place where I intended to drink whiskey or bourbon. But it got the job done. It tasted like your what's that Hawaiian punch back in the day,
Okay.
and went down, kind of smooth. So little food, little liquor. What else do you want, right? So, and it was kind of cool because people showed out in cosplay as well. I sent Michael and my brother a couple pictures of some folks dressed up as Gundam, my coworkers dressed up as the Naruto characters, and some people really do some amazing work with their costumes. We even got to see some people dressed up as Blue Beetle and Deathstroke and
Oh,
a few
nice.
other, I believe Nightwing or Robin was there. Someone was dressed up as Batman. So that was really cool too. And of course, there's the merch, the stuff that you go around and you get to see all these people and their creative sides of their art, and not only their art but how they display their art, right? So of course you always have your posters or something that you can hang on the wall, but like for example you had the keychains, the stickers, the some swords that people had put together, and kimonos and stuff like that. So excuse me. So it was cool to see all of that. I bought way more than I expected to buy, but it was well worth it. And I really don't have the space for this stuff. I'm not even gonna lie to you. But I do like supporting some creative folks, because it's always just great to see someone use their creative side to do something pretty awesome, right? And we all know after a convention's over, they can't really sell it online unless they have a licensing thing with the company and all this other stuff. And I will just go on to say I am still horrible at Tekken, right? I went upstairs and there was a Tekken tournament going on, but then I off to the side I got to play Tekken with a few coworkers and stuff like that, and I am no good at that game. Marvel versus Capcom, no good either, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I tell you this, I was going to talk cash money shit if I beat anybody with my button mashing skills, right? And I got pretty close a couple times for some seasoned guys who've done a couple tournaments. But you know what? Inevitably, I still lost. But I'm not gonna hold you. I had a great time. Great time. It's been a while since I've been into a convention altogether. And we're hoping as a crew to go to the Honolulu comic book convention that's taking place in August. We'll see, because hopefully your boy is going to go to Japan in August. But we are, things are still in the works, still in the bubble. On the other side of that, TV show wise, I haven't really watched too much of anything. I haven't watched the arc. I've been meaning to get back into it, but I'm sure about now either the season's almost done or close to done. So maybe I'll just wait until it's fully done. And I did start Avatar 2, but it's something I was going to watch with my daughters. And we watched about 10-15 minutes, and then one of my daughters had to go. So
Hmm.
eventually I'll get into that as well. But it does look, you know what? If there's anything that I will always say about Avatar, it always looks beautiful,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, I don't know much about the story yet. I do see that, that the our I guess you can say our supposed villains this time around have
Hmm.
changed up a little bit, but I'm curious to see how this all plays out, especially because of the length time, right? How they keep interest and stuff like that. But,
Mm.
you
Okay.
know, there's some cool stuff coming down the wire that I can't wait to check out too, whether it's on Netflix or some other streaming service. So, and Mike, I know we might talk about this a little later. We got to talk about that Blue Beetle trailer if you've
Oh
seen it.
yeah. Oh yes.
So,
Yes. Yes.
so we'll definitely have a conversation about that as well. So, Mike, what have you been doing since the last episode?
Yeah, man. So I have not gone to any conventions. I keep seeing. I think C2E2 just wrapped up, and
Mm,
I haven't been to C2E2 in years, and I really need to get back into it. So I missed out on that, but I have been, of course, just I've been on a gaming journey, I guess is the best way to say it. I did go back to my Nintendo Switch within the last month, and I've been playing the new Metroid Prime Remastered, which is, the hype was justified. It's an insane game, um, and it's a huge departure from the 2D Metroid that most people are used to. But it hits on all chords and it looks great, and they modernized it as far as graphics and controls go. So that was pretty cool. And then with the last release of the latest Zelda game, or the last trailer um, of the latest Zelda game being released last week, I decided that I needed to get back into Zelda and actually try and finish the game. So I've been playing that, and man, I feel like I've been missing out. So kind of hyped for this new Zelda game that's coming out. The trailers look amazing. The amount of things that you can do is going to be insane in this game, and it's going to justify the I believe the $80 price that Nintendo is asking for. And so been doing that. Of course, have been playing PC games on my Steam Deck. Been doing a lot of emulation as always. Also have dived back into some old games like Bioshock Infinite. Um, Having a lot of fun with that one. That one's really good. Been buying a lot of like indie type games. Been really visiting certain websites like Fanatical and Humble Bundle, and just been making out with these games that are normally $25-$30 and getting them for only a couple of bucks. So uh, been doing a lot of gaming, Rodney. TV wise, I feel like I'm going like back in time here. Haven't been watching anything recent or modern. Have started diving back into the TV show Fringe. That's a really great show. It's a modern take on like the X Files, and just really well done, great acting. And I guess I had to admit, I part of the reason I wanted to watch Fringe was because I wanted to watch Lance Reddick, and rest in peace, Lance. Um, so decided to watch that show. He has a very prominent character in that show, who is the leader of a task force that investigates these weird phenomena that are happening all over the world. So, enjoying that show. Don't think I've seen any movies in the last month, minus maybe what did Elias and I just go see? Oh, the the new Shazam movie. So we did see Shazam. Um, didn't really care for it that much. But looking at I don't know. Well, I guess we'll talk about this, the Blue Beetle trailer, and then some of the news coming out for the latest Flash movie, or the new Flash movie, I guess. So but yeah, other than that, man, mostly gaming is what I've been doing. Trying to get back into reading some more. I need to get back into my comics. But I think that'll be a project for next week. But gaming for sure is what I've been into.
Yeah, absolutely. We do definitely need to get back into the medium that got us started, right? Because it's been a while, and our podcast has kind of morphed more into the entertainment side and less into the comic book side, which is kind of unfortunate. But I will say, since we are talking Blue Beetle, and matter of fact, we're gonna talk about the trailer. If there's one thing I loved about that trailer, was that at the end they said, "Hey, this is where it all started," and then put up a whole bunch of comic books for people to check out. Right?
Right, right.
It seems like the most easiest concept, but Marvel has never done it. Like, never done it. At the end of any of their movies, at the end of their trailers or whatsoever, say, "Hey, if you're interested in Iron Man, this is what you can be. This is what's currently out right now
Right.
for you to consume, so you can get some understanding of how this universe works." Right?
Well, and I
So,
feel like that was a necessity for them, because unless you read comic books,
mhm,
Blue Beetle is such an obscure character within DC. If you've never read, when you think of DC, you think of like Batman and Superman and Green Lantern and Wonder
mhm,
Woman, all these cats, and all of a sudden, because Blue Beetle is supposed to be the movie that starts this new remaster of the DCEU.
mhm.
And so I thought that was a very smart move for them to be like, look, if you want to know about this guy, you want to know about the stories of Blue Beetle, this is where you can start off at. And that's something that's, I think, smart, and I think maybe kind of risky too, because uh now you're telling people, okay, you can go read these books to see where it all started, uh and to kind of give you an idea of what the character's like. But then on the other hand, you might have those people who are like, "Well, I did read the books, and the source material is not 100% to the movie," and
Yeah,
blah
yeah,
blah 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 blah.
I agree with that, and we always have to deal with the unfortunate of that. Yeah, and I understand, because you consume whatever medium first, like a book, and then you see it on the big screen or small screen, and it's not the same, and then you're kind of like up in arms. I'm not necessarily that way, but I guess I can understand why some people would be that way. But I mean, it's such a big base that you have to work with for these guys, at least, right? For example, I think about like Moon Knight or Miss Marvel or a few other of the Disney shows, who She-Hulk. I think it would have kind of benefited if they were like, "Hey, these are some of the books that these are based off on," especially Moon Knight, right? Because Moon Knight was kind of very intricate about Mark Spector and all this other stuff. So, and then you're only getting a small serving size of 8 episodes of how that works, right?
Hmm.
And so if it's not done correctly, you're not 100% sure what's the deal with this character. Even though they do take an episode to explain it, it still can end up being confusing. She-Hulk, I think, would have benefit also as well, because that one series that they did in the comics, it didn't, it wasn't 100%, but give you understanding what type of atmosphere they were going for She-Hulk, because not all She-Hulk books are the same,
That's a great
right?
point. That's a
You
great
know,
point. I love
so
that. Yeah.
yeah, so She-Hulk has been a part of the Avengers, the Fantastic Four. That's all real serious and has its different tones. But the series that She-Hulk had that was back in like what early 2020s, what or maybe late 2010s. That was the that's been the new what would you call it? That would be almost a new point for her that
Right.
she almost has like this Deadpool-ish feel of breaking the fourth wall, giving you an idea of what's going on and all this other stuff. So, you know, but it's who am I? I'm just, a 40-year-old guy who looks at it that way because I read the books because we didn't get all of this where, these things are now critiqued to such an extent that you can't even understand why people even still make them, right?
Hmm.
Because I might have my faults with something, but sheesh, at least it's still out there. Like
Right.
it was just a massive dream to see Spider-Man in a movie. We used to only have Batman whose neck didn't even move for years. And, Superman, was left up to the imagination. And, Christopher Reeves did what he needed to do. But still, it just never seemed like those two worlds were ever going to intersect. And then they
Right.
did.
Right.
And now, uh, we're never going to find that thing that we enjoy because it's either too much CGI or not enough CGI. There's 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 a character like Superman who the kids today will never relate to because everything is more gloomy. You know what I'm saying? So like being a nice guy and being patriotic is kind of like boring
R-
on
Right.
film,
Right.
right? Like of course people are patriotic about their country, but you know, someone who's Mr. Good Shoes, two good shoes or whatever you want to say,
Goody
goody
two
two,
shoes.
yeah, that's that doesn't translate well. Like so, for example, like when Fantastic Four comes out, I'm curious to see how that translates because they were goody two shoes, right?
Right. Right.
And they've tried and tried and tried to change their image up, make them a little bit more rugged, make Sue Storm look like, well, if you ever remember how Sue Storm used to look like back in the day, uh, she had the sauce at one
Right.
point, and
Right.
you were like, at the same time, you were like, I don't know about this, right? Because Namor was trying to get all up in there, right?
Hmm.
So, but you had these type of different things, and times change. I get it, times change, but it's just there's a level of curiosity for me. It's just like I'm either gonna watch it or I'm not gonna watch it, and I've gotten to the point that there's not much I really want to see right now except something new, a little bit more fresh. So when it comes to Blue Beetle, after looking at that trailer, which I think I missed for like 2 days, which is very odd for me. Um, I must admit that I'm like, oh, this looks kind of good, right? I like the And here's the thing, I don't have much of a background on Blue Beetle other than I believe Young Justice. I don't know. I can't say I've read a comic book with the current iteration of
Right.
the Blue Beetle,
Right.
right? I think everything else is based off of the old Blue Beetle that I've watched. Especially, like the death of Superman when Blue Beetle was gravely injured. I think he was killed in that.
Yeah, I think
And
he was killed.
and a little bit more after that in his adventures with Booster Gold. But this one I've only known from the small screen size or whatever, and I think they have a chance to get something started here right now. I'm going to compare it to somebody, but of course it's not exactly the same. But this is their chance to kind of sort of have their own Miles Morales, right? Where you possibly have a character that can fit in with a younger crowd, and you might find him enjoyable to as the older crowd might find him enjoyable, and not too off-putting. And they already kind of have the family flavor to it and stuff like that. So this is a chance for them to kind of, I won't say right a ship because it's too late to be trying to say that over and over and over again.
Hmm.
But this is a chance for them to get a decent franchise off the ground. It might not do money like gangbusters, but I think it has the qualities to say, okay, they got something here. I'm looking forward to the second one. You know what I'm saying? Almost kind of like how Shazam first started. Like I haven't seen Shazam 2, but the first Shazam, I was like, okay, well, they got themselves a little base here that they can do something with Shazam 2. But I'm not gonna lie, Shazam 2 fell under my radar until Michael told me he went and saw it in theaters.
Right.
And I have the ability to watch it now through other means, but I haven't really sat down and wanted to watch it. So, I don't know if that oomph that Shazam should have is there personally.
Yeah, no, I think that you're right as far as they have a real opportunity with Blue Beetle.
Mhm.
Um, and like I said, this is supposed to be the movie that kicks off the new so after the Flash movie, this is supposed to be the movie that kicks off where the DC EU is going to be going.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of meh about the movie. I didn't really see anything that I was super excited about. Like I'm glad that they brought Jaime into this.
Mhm.
Um, but the vibe of the trailer, the vibe of the movie, and this is probably because I watched the second um Shazam.
Mhm.
Uh Shazam 2 was just to me it was very underwhelming. I didn't like the bad guys that they had in there. So it's Helen Mirren and um Lucy Liu are the bad
Mhm.
guys, essentially. And or at least that's how I won't say too much, but they're like the main antagonists in the movie for most of the movie. And it's just like okay, Helen Mirren, cool. She's like 90. uh, and then you have Lucy Liu, who is older too, but I mean, it's Lucy Liu. Like she ages very well. Uh,
Mhm.
but she's no Michelle Yeoh. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have believed it better if it was Michelle Yeoh in that role.
Mhm.
So it was just an underwhelming movie, and it was too much. It was just too goofy to me. It was
Mhm.
too goofy. It just like the last Thor movie was just too goofy for me. And like and I can forgive Shazam because that's how the first movie kind of was like.
Mhm.
Um they just kind of went overboard with it this time, I thought. So it wasn't a bad movie. It was entertaining. I didn't really care for it. It's kind of the vibe I got from the trailer. Not to say that it was goofy, but it was just almost a little too lighthearted. And maybe that's because they had what's his name in there? Is it Carlos Mencia?
No, George Lopez.
George Lopez. Yeah, no, Carlos
Yes.
is the disgraced one.
Yes.
Okay, never mind. Sorry, Lopez. Yeah, how dare I? That's
Yeah, yeah.
terrible. No, Carlos is
Mhm.
the disgraced one. I was just watching a thing on him, and I was like, man, this dude was truly a scumbag.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, and so yeah, I don't know if it's because they had him in there, and I had a weird hairdo, and
Yeah.
I was just yeah. So, um, but I'm intrigued because I want to see where they're going with this, um, and see how the new how is he going to be the catalyst to everything new that's happening,
Mm.
because I'm interested with that. Uh, I'm not really interested in the Flash movie other than seeing Supergirl in it and
Mm.
having her be the new, whatever her thing's going to be moving forward, because it's a darker version of Supergirl. Um, and so I'm intrigued and curious about that because we have no idea what James Gunn's plan is going to be. Um,
Mhm.
all we know is that it's gods and monsters. Okay.
Mm.
And so and it's weird too because I just saw the trailer for uh the Penguin TV show,
Mhm.
um, which looks really good. It looks really good. It's basically Scarface, but it's Penguin, um, and it looks amazing. And so I'm like, oh, it's awesome. But none of this is gonna have to do with any of those movies. Like it's its own separate. They James Gunn's calling it the DC
Mm.
else worlds, whatever. So none of that, Batman, Penguin, all of that's or Robert Pattinson's Batman, all that takes place in a separate universe. So we'll never see it with mixed in with the DCEU. Um, so it's kind of weird. Like they dropped Blue Beetle, then they dropped Penguin, and so I'm kind of like, okay, I got to train myself to separate those two universes.
Sure.
Um, so I don't know, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. Like you said though, I feel like they have a huge opportunity. Like you, my experience with Blue Beetle, I think comic book wise is probably Blackest Night. Because I do believe Ted Kord's one of the ones that got resurrected
Hmm.
by the Black Ring. What was it, the Black Ring? I'm assuming it was a Black Ring. Um, and so I know Jaime was in that. But most of my knowledge comes from, like you said, Young Justice, uh, and which he did his thing. So um, I don't know. It'll be interesting because I'm thinking about it, like, are they going to is the Beetle just a piece of tech that was made, or is it going to be like in Young Justice where it was like alien technology meant to overtake worlds? Um, so I'm kind of curious to see. Although I think in the trailer they did say it was like a world destroyer. Um,
Yeah, I
so I'm
think they
I'm
hinted to it as well.
yeah, so I'm kind of curious to see uh what that's going to be about. I will say the one thing I didn't like in the trailer was
Hmm.
that um he's about to get run over by a bus, and then like he puts up a shield or something like that, and it saws the bus in half. And in my head, I'm thinking, how did nobody die? So I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious. I don't think it'll be like a day one watch for me.
Hmm.
I think it'll be like, let's see what people. I'll like kind of gauge the waters, and what are the people talking about? Because I feel like I got burned on that Shazam movie going out to the movie theater for that one. And that's not even the movie I wanted to watch. I mean, I wanted to watch um, the Ant-Man movie,
Mm.
but from what I heard, I'm glad I didn't waste the money on that either. So,
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't heard much of a peep about it. And then I after a while, it just was like, okay, well, then I'll wait for it to come out on
yeah,
video or whatever or
I heard
streaming so I can see
I
it.
heard a lot about it, just not in a good way.
Yeah, same here, but I didn't hear any, and I haven't looked either, to be fair, but I haven't heard much from my trusted sources,
Right,
right? So I kind of just was like, all right, I'll just do the wait and see approach. But we've had this conversation 1,000 times. Me and the theater just aren't like that anymore. So it's just
right.
been,
I took a
it.
gamble. I gambled.
Mhm,
I I
mhm,
I had a I had an opportunity to do boys' night with Elias.
mhm.
I gambled. Uh, we watched Shazam. Come to find out, Elias already saw Ant-Man. It's like he's like, "Well, it's a good thing we didn't watch Ant-Man because I actually already saw it." I'm like, "Really? Really, bro?" Um, so yeah. Oh, you know what? Other trailer that I am actually excited for. It's not a movie,
Well,
it's a
hold on, Mike.
TV
Before
show.
you, I'm sorry to cut you off before you get there. There's something I wanted to ask you while we were still in Blue Beetle
Yeah.
before we moved on. Um, you mentioned something about goofiness and lightheartedness and stuff like that. So I wanted to ask you, when it comes to DC now, do you think that we don't look at any of their shows or movies now to be lighthearted because they started off with such a serious tone?
That's a good question. If I were man, it's hard. So if I were a casual watcher of, just your average Joe who has no real knowledge of comic books,
Hmm.
um, I might be just fine with that. Like, it might not look towards I might not be like, oh man, they're not doing any dark stuff anymore. Now
Mm,
it's all this light, goofy stuff that Marvel's doing.
mm,
Um, I might not care. Um, but even being a guy who's been out of reading comic books for a minute, especially DC comic books,
mhm,
the thing that always kind of attracted me to DC was that it was a little bit more grounded. Um, and so not that it wasn't it was never really that goofy. Not that
mm,
Marvel's terribly goofy, but DC's always felt more serious. Like there's more to lose. Uh and yes, even though in comics nobody ever truly dies. I mean, you just talked about the death of Superman, and um he clearly came back. Um, but for me, and this is maybe why the second Shazam movie didn't hit with me. And again, not that Shazam is a serious character, but it was just too goofy for me. And to me, DC has never been, and I'm talking like the comic book side. I'm not even talking about like the whole controversy with Superman being dark, which I still never really get because he killed General Zod in the first movie. That now all of a sudden he's dark. It's never been. There's always been like heavy consequences in DC. You know, they've always taken like these huge risks. Um, I think about a lot of like the Batman storylines. Like the Killing Joke. Have always just been very like this could happen in real life. Um,
Mhm.
Whereas Marvel, like I said, it's not like they're goofy. They just did it. They just don't typically take that step. And even when they do, like, it's not even so much like with violence, um, just like the themes that are presented. I
Mhm.
think DC's themes tend to skew towards the darker than Marvel does. So when those first few movies came out, I was with it. I was absolutely about it. And I was one of the people that was like, I don't understand why people are so upset about Superman. Um, like, what are you trying to do? Like, the guy is trying to keep this other guy from lasering this family in half. Um, that's what would happen in real life. You're not trying to do whatever you can to not get the family killed and not kill this guy. It's no, you gotta do what you gotta do. Um, and so and I think that's why the first Justice League movie didn't hit. The one that why can't I think of his name that directed it?
Zach,
No, not Zach, the guy that did it before. Um, he directed one of the Avenger movies.
oh, he's about
Uh,
Joss Whedon.
yeah, Whedon. That's why Whedon's version of Justice League didn't hit because
Mm.
it was, for lack of better words, goofy.
Mm.
But then Zach's way different tone, way
Yeah.
different tone. So yeah, I mean,
I
I
can
guess
even add
as
Batman X Superman to that when the longer version, the Zack Snyder cut of the extended Zack Snyder cut came out, Batman v
hmm
Superman.
hmm
That one felt more right than the actual original one.
yeah,
So,
yeah, and so I guess for my perspective,
mhm,
as a guy that's not like I'm not like super deep into the lore and the comic books. I haven't read every issue of any character, but I've read enough, and I like that tone. You know, and it's fine. Shazam has never been a super serious character because he's a kid in an
mhm,
adult's body.
mhm,
Um, that's fine. I don't expect Jaime to be a super deep, dark character like a Bruce Wayne type. He's not going to be like a Damian Wayne. I
mhm,
expect Damian Wayne to be dark. He
mhm,
has to be dark. If they give me a goofy Damian Wayne, I'm done. All
mhm,
right. Um, the kid was raised to be an assassin,
mhm.
right? Jaime is just a kid trying to be a kid, trying to find his way in the world. So I
Yeah.
don't expect him to be dark. Um, so, but if you're just a casual observer, I don't know if it really matters.
You know what? Only thing I can say to that is that and I agree with your points. The only thing I can say to that is much as I've always enjoyed that DC is a bit darker and they put their characters through the ringer, I think it's also their detriment, right? Because I remember when DC Online came out and they showed us that trailer of everybody getting killed, right? That becomes, for some people, their entry point into DC characters. Then you correlate that with when Injustice came out, and that's some people's entry point into the DC lore. And then you, like, for someone like me, Batman the animated series, Superman the animated series, Super Friends, that's other people's entry point into some of those DC characters. And of course, these all vary by whatever years or whatever. But depending on whenever you hit with these characters, I think then kind of also modifies how you feel like those characters would think in certain scenarios, right? So for me, I like you said, when it came to the controversy about Superman or even Batman, I remember Batman v Superman when he was firing off like a Gatling gun and like killing terrorists, right? And for me, I was like, damn, Batman does that now? Because for me, I've known Batman to keep this particular thing of I don't kill, right? So yes, it does make sense, but at the same time, it's not what I'm used to from Batman. Because the only other points I know of him, he will dodge every freaking bullet just to tie somebody up. And for everybody, the Joker still ain't dead. Like, come on, dog. Like, of all people who should be dead, it should be the Joker, right? But like I said, I guess it just varies. I guess when you first met the character or how you met the character, as well. So, but that's something for them to work out. Go ahead. You was gonna say something?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, I mean, um, I think in general with DC, whether it's the comics or the TV shows or anything, I just think that if the new series of movies continues to have, and I don't think it will.
Hmm.
I think that uh, James Gunn is going to, because like I said, I'm more intrigued to watch what's happening with Supergirl than I am with anybody else that's coming out.
Mm.
Um, and I really want to read that storyline. There's a storyline for that that he actually mentioned that he's taking this inspiration from, and so I really want to find that storyline. But um, I just I don't want it to be either dark or just light,
Mm.
right? Like I want it to have a good mix.
Mm.
Okay, like I said, I have no problem with Shazam and Jaime being the way they are.
Hmm.
Um, but how Shazam was in the second that how that second movie was, it was
Hmm.
overkill. It
Mm.
was like so many times during the movie I was just like, okay, this is stupid.
Because I was gonna say the first one was pretty goofy itself.
It was, it was, but
So it
like
means that they really went over the top.
it was over the top for me, you know.
Mm.
Um, and it didn't need to be. It didn't need to be. Uh, that's why I didn't like the last Thor movie. It was just it was way too goofy for a storyline that was supposed to be dark. you know, um, I so
That is true.
I'm okay with like just having a mixture of stuff. I don't necessarily want to have it would be weird if Shazam was like going all scorched earth on people. You know,
Sure.
um, it would be weird. Uh,
Hmm.
so I'm cool with that. But I don't know. I think that they just gotta. I think James will, at least I hope that he will, steer it in a way that keeps people from thinking it's just the Marvel formula.
Sure. I
Because you keep
agree.
having that term brought up, the Marvel formula, and I get it. The last few TV shows and movies that Marvel has done, it's all been formula stuff. Uh,
Hmm.
I the Marvels. Did you watch the Marvels trailer?
I did not. I
Okay,
have no interest.
I wanted to watch that movie solely because it had Monica Rambeau in there.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't really care to watch this movie now.
Mm.
It looks too goofy. It's the Marvel formula. It's
Mm.
absolutely the Marvel formula. Um, so I just hope that they find a way to keep that out of the mix. Like I hope James Gunn and company like find a way to not let it be this thing where we're always popping jokes off in like the most dire situations.
So I'll make this last point. I think it's hard now because everything has been done one way or another. Even like with Marvels, like I'm sorry, I got mistaken. I did see the Marvels trailer, but I didn't see the Samuel trailer that just came out.
Oh,
That's what I
that
meant
looks
to say.
really good.
But here's the thing: I don't really care for none of it right now. I'm just, I guess I finally hit my breaking point. I don't really care for none of it right now, in
Are
the
you
sense
Marvel
of
fatigued?
I'm superhero fatigued.
Oh,
In the sense of nothing has seemed original anymore. We know the world is going to end. Someone's got to save it. Blah, 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 blah. but nothing has made me go, oh, I got to really sit down and watch this in quite some time. The last thing that hit me like that was Moon Knight, and I told you my disappointment with Moon Knight, right? And for it only to be, I think maybe it's slated for 2 seasons now, but it's been rumored to be just one, depending on whatever, right? Uh, and part of it is the Marvel formula. Part of it is just Disney now oversaturating the market. And so even if DC came out with a banger, you know, I would still probably not watch it until maybe a month or two, three later,
Mm.
just because um I've just hit this breaking point that like after Endgame, you've tried to just sprinkle a whole bunch of movies out there, and now you've lost my attention because my time is limited. It's extremely limited more these days than it used to be. So, to sit down and watch a movie that's disjointed, doesn't have anything to really do with excelling something, it's just not hitting anymore for me. I rather find something a bit more fresh, a bit more sci-fi, a bit more with some other categories that I'll enjoy. And then when someone finally says, "Hey, you need to watch something," I'm going to reverse side like I did with everything else, word of mouth. Then I'll go back and watch it. But um, yeah, as of right now, I've kind of like, because like even when like watching Blue Beetle and watching Marvels, it's like, all right, cool, and that was it. Just there's nothing there. But I can't explain the feeling when I saw the Avengers trailer. I can't explain the feeling that even though it wasn't great, when that JLA trailer came out, like then there was just like, oh man, I gotta just see how they're gonna make this work. What's going on here? This is amazing, right? Like if I got a Teen Titans movie in the near future, I think maybe it would hit me a little bit. Or if I got a Young Avengers trailer, or and here's the thing, there's only a handful of other characters I even really care to see on the big screen right now, you know, or even the small screen. So because they've literally done almost everyone that I've cared about, right? The only thing that I'm waiting for is Spawn right about now at this point, right?
So that was gonna
Or
be my next question was, is it just Marvel and DC, or is it any property that you're completely superhero fatigued, you don't care?
well, here's the thing: no other properties coming out with anything, right?
Right.
It's only Marvel and DC. And hey, I'm glad that we
Come on,
finally
man, you
get.
had Bloodshot.
Oh, I watched that on a plane. Oh, I watched that on a plane, and
Come
man,
on, man, tell
I
me Bloodshot didn't hit with you.
oh, it did more than just hit at me, man. I felt like I needed to take a shower after that, man.
Oh god.
It was terrible, terrible, right?
Would that
Hey,
have been a different movie if The Rock were playing in that?
no,
No?
I don't think anybody could say Bloodshot. And the only reason I say it was like it was the worst starting off point to start a franchise.
They
Because I
ruined that
think Valiant was
franchise.
trying. Hmm.
They ruined it.
Yeah, I think. And here's the thing: they couldn't do Exo Man of War because it's too close to Iron Man, and it's not enough time has passed. So the only other thing that to me would have made sense would have been maybe Ninjak, or someone else in that
Mhm.
mix.
Mhm.
But Valiant has always kind of been a hard sell themselves. And to me, honestly, that's something like if you wanted to do a Bloodshot thing, you should have did a series because no one knows anything about Valiant.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, right? Like these other characters have some level of nostalgia. Superman, people have been calling themselves Superman for years, right? Even if they've never read the comic book, people know who Superman is. People know who Batman is. People know Captain America, and they've never read the book. They just know that shield. They know that particular red, white, and blue logo. Spider-Man, same way. But you go out there with Bloodshot, and matter of fact, Mike, let's think about the time this movie came out. Respectfully, there have been a couple school shootings around that time. I don't know if that's the first thing that people wanted on their screen was somebody, this anti-hero shooting up everything,
Mhm.
right? And then the movie wasn't just done well at all to begin with, right? But I don't think it's like watching Punisher light, and Punisher's done way more better. I feel like I cared more about Punisher than I ever would have cared about Bloodshot, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it was Vin Diesel, The Rock, Thomas Jane, anybody else who had played Punisher in the past. Only maybe John Barenthal might have did it, but then he's got to be bald in it, and I don't think
Right.
he looks great bald at all.
No,
So that wouldn't have worked either.
no,
So
I can't unsee Berthal as anybody else other than Punisher.
yes, but Mike, going back to your point, the Mark Millar universe was terrible.
Mm.
You know, don't get me wrong, Kick Ass 1 for me had, had that thing that was like, oh, this is kind of cool. But by the time Kick Ass 2 came out, to me, it was gone. And then everything Mark Millar has done for Netflix hasn't hit. And so,
Oh, right. What was that last one?
oh, I can't remember. And the book is terrific. The book is terrific, but the series was horrible,
Right,
you know?
right.
And so I would encourage any other property to get with a good studio and bring something out, and I would give it an opportunity. But I have been literally talking about the Marvel and DC universe since 2010 when I was in Qatar with you
Mhm,
to now. 13 years. 13 years I sat there and watched them build these universes, try to get things to work, try the Hulk, try Iron Man, try, Captain America. And I'm lenient. I'm willing to give these things an opportunity. But after 13 years, you're still trying to play me by saying, okay, I don't know how we're gonna make this work. So we're gonna sprinkle a couple movies, between this and that. And you screwed up because you connected everything. So now when you give me a one-shot movie, I expect it to somehow connect to the bigger picture. And when it
mhm.
doesn't, now I'm pissed,
Yeah.
you know. And hey, I'm sorry, it's just me as a customer. It's me, and all these other things. So yes, I am superhero fatigued. I feel like I'm missing out on some fantastic work that other places is doing because I've been giving Disney and Warner Brothers solely my attention. Where Paramount has been knocking down doors with some great content. There's been some independent stuff that's knocking it out the park with some great sci-fi content. And there's these other unique stories that I should be giving some of that time that I've dedicated to this, to that. So, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, no, I agree with you. I think, I I I see where you're coming from. I don't know if I'm to that level yet,
mm,
because like I said, I've been waiting for Secret Wars for a while now.
sure.
And I'm looking at this as a it's a into Nicholas Fury's character.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm kind of excited for this and how this is gonna play out.
Mhm.
Because it's not gonna be like a over the top action sequences, like I find for me at least, and I've mentioned this before, my favorite Marvel movies have been like the Captain America movies.
Mhm.
Um, because they've never been like, nobody's got like these outlandish superpowers or anything like that or crazy tech or anything. It's just one guy who's just really strong and really fast and doing his thing. Like it's basically Jason Bourne
And he's
with a
playing
shield.
usually an equally as strong whatever villain.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Like
not
it's
massively
literally
over the top
Jason
either.
Bourne with a shield,
Sure.
and so that really hit with me. I don't think any other Marvel franchise has. Um, and so looking at this and so yeah, so there's that one. And then as far as TV shows, like for me, again, Loki really resonated with me because it wasn't, yes, Loki is a god and everything, but like he's massively, shut down for a better part of the series,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's this whole mystery of what's going on. And so I really enjoyed that series. And to some extent, maybe even WandaVision.
Mm.
Really enjoyed those because you didn't know what was going on in WandaVision. They kept giving you little snippets at the end of each episode, but
Mhm.
um you didn't know what was going on. And then towards the end, that's when everything starts to really get kind of crazy.
Mhm.
So those kind of things resonated with me. But I absolutely agree. When Black Panther came out, I I really wanted to see it, but it wasn't enough for me to go to the movie theaters for.
Mhm.
Um, In fact, the only movie that I've gone to see, Marvel and DC, that I saw the trailer for and I knew I wanted to watch it, was the new Batman with Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, I
That's
agree
the
with that.
that's the only movie that I've seen recently that I absolutely made the right decision on, and I was rewarded for it. And even though it was a 3-hour movie, 'cause that was a huge, like, it's 3 hours. How good can it be
Mhm.
in 3 hours?
But
Well worth it.
for a detective flick and what they gave me,
Yeah,
and you know what? I even say this, Mike. I'll even say, um, replayability. I've watched
right.
the Batman numerous times.
Yeah,
I've watched Black Panther 2 once, and I
right,
was in theaters. I
right,
watched Thor: Love and Thunder maybe sprinkle a handful of times only because I think my daughters were watching it.
right.
But you know what? Here's the other side of that because we talk about the movies. Um, I and I don't know what's to blame, if it's COVID, if it's the studios or what, but are just the fact that they still gave us stuff during COVID at home, and because we got so used to it that we had a hard time going back. I've gone to the theater to try to reinvigorate my love for going to the movies, and it's just not there. It's
No,
really just not there,
no,
right?
I can't justify it.
Yeah, I
I
can.
can't
Whether
justify
it's
it.
the price, whether it's the movie, you know, if it, the only other reason I would go to the movies again is probably for a James Cameron presentation, right?
Right, right.
Because and the only reason I say that because James Cameron always gives me something. It look the like Avatar is still the same movie, but he will make sure that you know that he's put every everything in the tool shed to make it a visual, audio pleasing movie. The story can be crap, but whether it's been Terminator, Avatar, he did Aliens, right? He did a eight Aliens movie.
He did the
Uh,
second Aliens movie.
yeah, he's always done something that makes me go, well, damn, okay. Like he's always even for Titanic. I mean, because I think I saw it once in the movie theaters or whatever. He still does something that makes you go, well, damn. Even though this is a love story, the visuals of this thing is amazing. You
Mhm,
know, but
mhm.
regardless, um, you know what? I'll just say it this way. I've changed. That's all it is. I've changed in the sense of, you know, what I was waiting for in the comic world, I got, and my belly is full, but I'm ready to just, I'm ready to, consume something else as far um as the in the medium other than superheroes. I want a great detective flick. I want a great superhero sci-fi flick. You know, it's almost time for that superhero generation, kind of like, remember when zombies and vampires were big, and then things changed to another thing. Superheroes have gotten a longer stick than those ever did.
Mm.
And I think it might be time to shift that pendulum a little bit to something else, and then come back when you got something a little bit more better on the table. But if we're going to keep on throwing out 8 superhero movies every year, I think you're going to beat it so much that no one's going to want to come back to it. That's just my theory. But
Yeah, no, no, I agree. I mean, uh, we didn't have this problem, 15 years ago.
hmm
You got maybe 3 blockbusters a year.
yep.
Um, and typically it was you had a summer blockbuster and then you had
hmm
a holiday blockbuster,
yep.
and maybe one in between then. And I've said this before, this is why Star Wars didn't do well because they were putting out movies at the same time Marvel was still putting out movies.
hmm
And so which blockbuster do you want to see? Do you want to see something that's new and you're not sure what the deal is, or you want to see something
hmm
that's been building up and they're skyrocketing? So um that's why Star Wars failed initially. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why Star Wars failed, but um trying to compete with the release schedule of Marvel,
hmm
they're on the same team. Like
hmm
it just, um and I think for me, maybe maybe it's more like I said, I don't know if I've gotten to the point that you're at.
hmm
Because like I said, I still want to watch this Secret Wars thing. Um,
Mhm. Hey, and, oh, sorry, I should mention, I am looking forward to Armored Wars because you know me in armor and
right,
mechs
right.
and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
you're yeah.
Mhm.
Um, but like the DC stuff, I just like I said, I was meh about Shazam. I was meh about Blue Beetle. I just, other than the Batman, like I'm gonna watch Penguin. I know I'm gonna watch
Mhm.
Penguin because it's different and you're not gonna see like superpowered beings flying around, like it's gonna be a Scarface type of TV show, just with Batman characters,
Mhm.
or Rogues Gallery, right? Um, and even the I was I keep wanting to say Suicide Squad, but not Peacemaker. Like
Mhm.
what drew me into didn't care less about Peacemaker and Suicide Squad movie. Um, but what really drew me into the TV show was that it was way different. It was way
Yeah.
different. Yeah, they had like alien invasion and um, random, superhero cameos, but it
Mhm.
was it was about a guy who's deeply messed up, in the head.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of baggage, and so uh, but they just put a DC character, as the costume on it. So that kind of stuff still gets me. And I think that's the kind of thing I think that's why I love the Netflix versions of the Marvel shows,
Mhm.
um, because they were quote unquote ground level superheroes.
Mhm.
Um, who didn't have these major superpowers or tech or anything like that. I mean, besides Iron Fist, I loved all the Marvel shows on
Same.
Netflix. Um, and maybe had they casted a different type of character or actor for Iron Fist, I would have been into it. But otherwise, they were they were all deep, So um, they keep talking, they're bringing back Daredevil, they're bringing back Punisher, and it's cool, but I think it's gonna get. I don't- I had this conversation with somebody at work. And they're like, "Yeah, it's gonna be on Disney Plus, though." I said, "True, it is, but Disney Plus does have a rated R section.
Mhm.
You can watch the rated R version of Deadpool on Disney Plus.
Mm.
You just got to go through a couple of settings first, uh, and so." Um, But I don't know. I haven't got to that point yet, but as far as like the over the top superheroes and everything like that, I agree. There's nothing that I've seen that
That's
I'm gonna
groundbreaking anymore,
right, that
point
I'm
blank.
jumping for. And which is
Mhm.
disappointing because I know what storyline they're going for in Marvel.
Mhm.
Uh, but the way they put it together is terrible. Um, And so I just like, okay. And same thing with DC. I'm like, okay. I'd rather just watch the Batman stuff. It's disconnected from all the DC stuff, the DCEU stuff. Um, and it's you just said it. It's more of a detective vibe to it than anything.
Mhm.
So yeah, I agree. Like and it kind of liberates you from focusing too much on that, and then allows you to go outside the box and see what other people are doing and see what other people are watching. Like I just started watching, I didn't mention this earlier, but I did start watching Picard
Mm.
on Paramount Plus because I've gotten through all my Star Trek shows on Paramount Plus except for Picard. Um, and that's a good one so
Respectfully,
far.
I heard that it was kinda shaky the first season and
It's kind of all over the place.
Mhm.
I'm only halfway through the season right now.
Mhm.
Um, And this is actually my second watch through with it because it's a show you absolutely have to pay attention to.
Mm.
Um, like it's not one of those ones where you're just casually like I can't play my Steam Deck on the couch and watch the show. It's not
Right.
possible. I have
Yeah.
to either do one or the other. Um, and so of course quite often I choose my Steam Deck, but and put something else on that I can kind of watch in the background.
Mhm.
But yeah, it lets you kind of open your eyes a little bit, see what's in the peripheral vision. I think a good analogy would be like somebody who's never had the original recipe for KFC,
Mm.
and then they start eating and they're like, "Oh, this is great." They eat so much KFC, and then maybe they get the crispy. chicken KFC.
Mhm.
And they're like, "Oh man, this is great. This is great. Oh, the potatoes, the gravy, all of that, the coleslaw.
And then you have the original
Oh,
recipe,
yeah,
and then
that
you
original recipe. At one point you just start eating the skin and leave the chicken alone. You know,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
but then you get to a point where okay, I've like you say, I've filled my belly. I've
Mhm,
had way too much KFC.
mhm,
What else is out there? Let me check out this Asian joint, you know.
mhm.
Let me check out, this Mexican joint, let me check out something else, and now you've like allowed yourself to go away from KFC because it's like what else can you KFC, what else can you do?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
You can
Oh, we
only
got the
do so
spicy
much.
crispy sandwich, so then you come back for a
Right.
little bit,
Yep.
and then
Yep. They
and
draw
then
you
you
back in,
yeah,
and
and then you're
then you
gone all over again. No,
yep.
I mean, the same thing happens yeah, I mean, and that's a great analogy because it happens to me a lot with fast food joints, right? Where they, you know, McDonald's has been a staple for me for since I was a kid. But after a while, you hit them 40s and you're just like, all right, dog, I done had everything on this menu 18 times
Everything.
over. Like I need something else. And then you realize what the importance of variety,
Right.
where
Right.
it's just like if make we joke and we said all the time, we always correlate this with NBA 2K and Madden because there is no variety out there that it just becomes stale on its own, and that's true for almost anything. And I think the same thing is happening with Marvel and DC. No matter, and I'm putting them together because they have the largest output of superhero content, right? But there's nothing else to combat them. No other genre to combat them at all, right? That they're running out of actors to even put in these movies because of all the movies that they've pushed out because of this stuff. But now you're getting to the point, and and look, let's be clear. Endgame ended in such a way that it was like if it stopped right here, I felt perfectly fine. And they decided to keep on moving forward. And the thing is that some of us just aren't really interested anymore, you know? And so, now you're trying everything to say, okay, we're about to bring this, we're about to bring that, and you're going to have a hard time bringing some of those people back this time around because it's like, look, man, I watch, Robert Downey Jr. give the performance of his life. You know, I watched the scene of watching all them portals open and seeing all the characters come out. Guardians is getting ready to end soon. What more do you want from me, man? Like for real, what more do you want from me?
Right.
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 And how are you going to really enthuse me after you hit all these emotional points before?
Right.
So, but again, we could talk about that forever. But Mike, you was mentioning another trailer that you wanted to have a discussion about. What trailer was that you were
No,
talking
no, it was the Secret Wars one. That was
about?
the
Okay.
one that I saw the trailer. Um, it's not one of my favorite storylines, but
Mm-hmm.
it is an intriguing storyline and of how they're doing it.
Mm,
Is going to be completely different from the books.
mm,
Because in the books, Secret Invasion begins because of the Illuminati.
mm,
Um, and so that doesn't seem to be the case here. Um, so I'm intrigued. I'm curious. And like I said, it's got more of that, government conspiracy, spy conspiracy, whatever you want to call it, type of vibe to it. And I think that's why, like I said, this is why those type of movies resonate with me, um, because they're not over the top,
mm.
and it takes you, I can't, you're not going to see Sam Jackson doing a 5-minute John Wick type of action, sequence. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be more like a, you know, 30-second to maybe 2 minutes of him really just shooting people up. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm cool with that because that's believable for his character. And it does look like they're introducing somebody new, some kind of female agent. Uh, and so I'm curious to see what that's all about. Um, but I don't know. Like we just mentioned, there's not a whole lot to really draw us in, especially with. I was hoping the latest Ant-Man movie was going to be that thing to really jumpstart It's supposed to be. I mean, that's supposed to Ant-Man's movie is supposed to be the start of the new phase.
Mm.
Um, but after hearing, I mean, I literally had people come up to me and be like, "It was Star Wars," and I was like, "Oh." And then I looked online and everybody's like, "It was Star Wars," and I was like, "Huh? Damn. All right." So to see this one come out, Secret Wars, I'm kind of excited for because I think this is going to be kind of the walking out the door for Nick Fury's character. I mean, we might see him in some cameos. In fact, I know we're going to see him in the Marvels, but um, I think that's going to be pretty much it for him, and I'm fine with that. Like like you said, after Endgame, they could have stopped
Hmm.
and focused on a completely different thing. I mean, I would have preferred them just to focus on Star Wars,
Yeah.
um, and rebuilding that mess. Um,
Hmm.
and then maybe 5 or 10 years down the line, you throw a random movie out there that kind of piques everybody's interest. Um,
That's the
and then
thing I miss too. It's like there's nothing wrong with a reboot.
right,
Like, to be honest, well, I won't even say a reboot, but letting it breathe for a little bit,
yeah, let it
right?
breathe. Let it
Hmm.
breathe. Pop that wine bottle, let it breathe.
Yeah,
You know?
and they
So
they they don't do that. But Mike,
no, no,
let's
no. Cash cow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The money's too hard to pass up. And hey, I ain't gonna act like I wouldn't have done the same thing at times too.
Right.
But geez, like there's got to be a stopping point. Mike, it's almost here, man. The time is coming. I'm super excited. And you know why I'm excited? Because next week, Dead Island 2 comes out, man.
Mm,
And I'm gonna let you know now. I've watched numerous gameplay trailers. I'm excited. I'm really excited. It's not the same as the first one in the sense of you remember good old Jamaican rapper talking crazy, beating people's head in with the biggest stereotypes for every character.
mhm,
These guys actually have some personality. They've added some gaming mechanics that I am super excited about. That I am like really hype. I've been telling Brandon. I talked to him earlier this week. I was like, "Yo, April 21st, April 21st." And yes, I'm going to be clear. I will give this might be a day one purchase, right? I am a little shaky because we all know how day one purchases go, but I might still just go ahead because look, if there's anything I do miss is the nostalgia of playing with you and Brandon
mhm,
because there's been nothing more than us having sitting there drinking, playing, talking shit, and then just having a great time, right? So I'm hoping that at least that island can deliver enough. And I need to look because while I'm hype and all this other stuff, I haven't looked at any co-play. So I need to verify that that's there before I go any further with this. But from what I
yeah,
saw,
yeah.
what's
No,
up?
it is, it is.
Okay.
The one thing I'm kind of excited about that game, because I've been watching the gameplay on it, and of course, building your weapons, modifying your weapons,
Yep.
and it's going to be mostly melee type of weapons that you're going to have in this game.
Hmm.
Uh, but the one mechanic that I saw that was really, I guess, excited for was like the
I'm thinking you're
gore
about to say the
system.
same thing. Yeah.
Like it
Ooh.
looks like you'll be able to do some things,
Yeah.
and like these characters, these models that you're gonna be fighting against, these zombie models you're gonna be fighting against. I mean, it's not like you just hit them and then you see some blood come out. It's like whatever you hit them with is the kind of damage you would see like in real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's electrocution, burning, slashing, stabbing, whatever, and they'll react appropriately to that.
Hmm.
And so it opens up, like, of course, the gore part of it, but also like the strategic part of it. Like
Sure.
if I take your ankle out, I know that I'm going to be good for a second. So,
Yep.
and then the characters and what they specialize in,
Hmm.
which is it's not a wholly new concept, but the way they showed it in the gameplay makes you really think like, okay, like who am I going to pick?
Hmm.
Because every character has a different type of uh
Feel to him.
feel to them, a different type of
Hmm.
weapon set, and different type of bonuses that they get.
Hmm.
And so I'm pretty excited for that. I
Same.
would like to say that this month, the end of this month is gonna be pretty expensive for me. Um, because yes, we have Dead Island 2.
Mhm.
Um, I think a week after that, Star Wars comes out. Um, and then I think a week after that, Zelda comes out. And so I'm like, and I believe unless it's been delayed, or maybe I think did get delayed. But Street Fighter was supposed to come out this
Street
month,
Fighter
but
6, yeah.
yeah, but I think it
I
did
think
get delayed.
Street Fighter 6 is coming out this summer, June or July.
Yeah, I think it got
Mhm.
delayed like a couple of months, so which is
Yeah,
fine. Make sure
yeah,
it's good.
yep,
But it's gonna be those 3 titles that I just mentioned are day 1 purchases, uh,
yeah,
for me. So I just this like last the last couple of years, of course, with COVID and everything, releases have not been that great.
mhm,
Um, so nothing to be like, oh, I'm gonna spend $60 on this. Uh, but um, yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'll be curious. The way the game looks for Dead Island 2. I know you got your gaming PC, so that's not an issue. For
mm,
me, most of my gaming is on my Steam Deck.
mhm,
Um, I'll be interested to see if this is gonna be verified,
mm.
on Steam Deck,
Day
or if
1.
it's because we've seen the last few releases, more than the last few releases for the Steam Deck, have not done so well, day 1. Um, especially with, The Last of Us is bombing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's not a Steam Deck issue, that's a Sony issue. They mess or Naughty Dog, they messed that one up. There's just because they're having the same issue just with PC,
mhm.
in general. So it didn't matter if you had a Steam Deck or a legit gaming PC with all the top specs. The game just failed at launch.
But Mike,
So
let me ask you this because I was looking at the vitriol about that. That hasn't been every PlayStation title though, right? It's only been Last of Us, or is this a
no, so
trend with
Last of Us
PlayStation
and then
titles?
Returnal. That was another one that did not do well day one.
But like
And then
Spider-Man was fine day one from what I remember, right?
for the most part, it still had issues, especially for people who were running like the latest and greatest um specs on their gaming PC, especially because you could
Mhm.
get that ultra wide.
Mm,
They said that it was gonna be ultra wide supported, and I know they were having issues with that.
mm,
But like Spider-Man's thing was that I think I want to say they had like either a day one patch or it was like they had a patch like a week later.
mm,
And it was more like stuttering, frame rate stuttering. It wasn't
mm,
anything crazy. Whereas Last of Us has a litany of issues.
mm,
And it's not just with frame rates, because it frame rate wise, it runs fine. You'll get it at 30 FPS on the Steam Deck.
mhm,
But you had glitches, you had character models, I believe was the worst offender for Last of Us, that it just looked terrible.
mhm.
You had characters who would be inside, but they would look like they had just gotten rained on. And so, I haven't played Last of Us. I've never played Last of Us. Um,
It's a great game.
but yeah, so it's not the only game to come over that's had an issue at day one.
Mm.
Um, and I guess I don't want to count uh what was not Dead Space, but the one that came out before it.
Oh,
Um,
I know what you're talking about. It wasn't a Sony game, but I know what you're talking
Right,
about.
right. So I don't wanna
Yeah, I can't
count that
remember.
in the mix either, but the last 2 for sure, Returnal and The Last of Us have not done well, day
Sure.
1. So, uh, but like I said, it wasn't it was like that when you had a dedicated system like you have, or you had a
Mm,
Steam Deck. It was more optimization, by Naughty Dog, and I don't know who does Returnal. Um They just didn't optimize it. And so, uh, I'm sure they'll get those games squared away. It's not gonna be that big of a deal. It's not gonna be like a Cyberpunk type of situation.
mhm.
But I'm just hoping that, because I still have my gaming PC, my gaming laptop, I should say. Uh, I just don't use it for gaming
Mhm.
anymore. And that's at work right now. So I might have to bring it back just in case it doesn't run well. I might just bring it back anyway if we're gonna play online.
Sure.
So I don't know. We'll see. And then yeah, same thing with Jedi Survivor and well, Legend of Zelda. That's going to be on the Switch.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm excited for Dead Island. Now the question would be is how we can schedule time um, for the three of us to between your brothers, random scheduling on the call schedule, you being 5 hours away in Hawaii, and me just not being able to stay up late anymore because I just fall asleep like a 70-year-old man in his chair. Like
Hmm.
we got to figure
Yeah,
that out.
we'll have to dedicate some time to make that happen because I definitely I'm willing to carve out the time. I'll put it that way.
Right.
To make that work to get like an hour or two in or whatever on a regular basis. But I get what you're saying because that's usually the hardest part is just scheduling time between family and all and work and all the other stuff. So, but yeah, I'm super excited because I got to go ahead and pre-order today. And like you, this is going to be an expensive month because I finally decided to pull the trigger on setting up my Sonos system.
Oh,
So
snap.
I finally bought a for those who don't know, because I moved, I didn't have a television for like the first 2 months in this place. And wasn't like I really needed it because I have this big old monitor on my computer. So I finally broke down and bought me a nice little Samsung television that does everything. And so now, even though I do have Bluetooth speakers, to be honest with you, I when I play music, I would love for it all to be interconnected a bit more from like my bedroom to the living room. So that's going to be the next thing to start slowly buying the little speakers and buying a little beam. I think buying the beam. I'm not sure yet on that one. And then I'm gonna probably buy like a Sony Play 5 or something because I want to eventually buy my record player as well.
Mm.
So we will see how that all goes. But Mike, unless you have anything else, and
Yeah, no, like I said, this you know, as at least as far as entertainment goes, like
mhm,
you mentioned fatigue and everything like that. Um, you know, disappointment, I guess, on that side of it. On the other side of it, as far as gaming goes, man,
mm,
just so much stuff coming out. Dead Island 2, Star Wars,
yep,
Zelda.
yep,
Uh, it's gonna be pretty awesome. And I'll say this to wrap it up for me.
mhm,
Like I mentioned at the beginning, I've been on this journey, and like I said, recently been playing my Switch again, and have enjoyed the simplicity of being able to just turn it on and be into a game a second later. Uh, Whereas my Steam Deck, which I adore and love, uh, it's a gaming PC. It doesn't just turn on. I can't just get into a game in a second unless I've had it on standby and I'm already in the game. Um, so that I do miss, not having to worry about, frame rates and this and that or whatever. So that's been nice. I find that I'm going through playing on the Steam Deck, playing on the Nintendo Switch. Uh, Rodney, I bought an Ambernic RG35XX. It's a retro handheld that looks kind of like a Game Boy,
mm.
and I've been putting everything from Nintendo all the way up to PlayStation 1 on there. And it's amazing. I made a video on it. I need to get it posted. But it's amazing. And I find myself getting really wanting to get another handheld. Um, and that being one that'll play my N64 games,
Mhm.
and my PlayStation 2 games, my GameCube games, just dedicate it to that and have it be a small form factor. Because I
Well,
love
the
this.
rumor is that Sony has another handheld around the corner.
Yes, but I would temper your expectations. It's going to be a streaming only device.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be something that's tethered to the PlayStation 5. So
Okay,
it's not
never
gonna be
mind.
like a Vita. So, yeah, I saw those rumors. It's gonna be a straight streaming device like the Logitech G Cloud.
I'm cool.
Um, but
I'm cool.
worse as far
Mm.
as power. Um, it's
And
not
then
gonna be
I saw you sent me a video that I didn't get to watch about the Asus handheld.
oh yeah. So Asus, very popular, big company. They make gaming laptops, they make all
Most
kinds
of
of stuff.
my computer is built through Asus stuff.
Yeah. They yeah, graphics cards, everything. Like they're a big player. So they are releasing within this year. I don't know the exact date.
Mhm.
But they're releasing their own gaming handheld, PC handheld. Uh and spec wise, it'll be way more powerful than the Steam Deck.
Mhm.
Uh but they said that it will compete with the Steam Deck price wise. So that has a lot of people curious because most gaming PCs that have those kind of specs are going to cost you anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 bucks, which is why the Steam Deck does very well because you can get into gaming PC or PC gaming at 400 bucks, okay, and have it be a really good experience. Now, Asus is claiming that they can double the performance and compete pricing wise with the Steam Deck. And I'm thinking, well, it's not going to be $400. In fact, most people are saying it's probably going to be somewhere between $600 and $800.
Mm.
And to be honest with you, it's got me curious because Valve has already said it'll be years before they release another Steam Deck. Um, just because they don't want to do another one with incremental changes to it. When they
Mhm.
release another one, it'll be another groundbreaking type of thing, from
Yeah.
what they've said, which is fine. Um,
Mhm.
but Asus got me. They're supposed to be releasing the pricing, I think, this month.
Mm.
If they get the pricing right for $700, I'll even say 750. I don't know, man. I might be in. I
Mm.
might be in if it's double the power of the Steam Deck. I might be in. The only thing that would hold me back, and there's a few things, but the ergonomics one, it's got to be
Sure.
dope. Okay.
Yeah.
I know you're not really into it, but I love the back buttons and the trackpads.
Mhm.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I find it really hard to when I'm docked or playing my other systems and I'm holding my controllers.
Mhm.
I find it really hard that I'm always pressing on the back of the controllers. I'm like, oh, there's nothing back there. Damn it.
Mm.
Um, and it's forcing me to buy like pro controllers now.
Mhm.
So uh So I don't know. I ergonomics. Uh, I like the Linux based system.
Mhm.
It's very stable, and it's got a huge community to help with that. Uh, as you know, and many other people know, Windows is terrible for that kind of thing,
Mhm.
especially with all the launchers.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
so, and trying to do Windows on a handheld is not an optimal
It's the
experience.
worst. It's the
Right,
worst. It's been tried many times
right,
before.
right,
There's been many of handheld Windows devices that we thought were going to be dope, and they were the
right.
worst.
Right. So if
You
I
know,
can
yeah.
install Linux on that thing and run Steam OS on it, I don't know, man. I'm I might be that sucker that
You
has
know
two
what?
gaming
And
PCs.
I respect it. I guess I'm getting to the point that I don't want to have multiple gaming devices, right? Like I understand why people still want a PlayStation 5, an Xbox, and a Nintendo or whatever. And of course, we all know because of the various games and stuff like that. But also at the same time, um, I'm also curious about like I also just hate I just love having just the Steam Deck and Steam related stuff. I know it doesn't always necessarily work that well, but it's always been my thing because I don't want to have an EA installer, and then a Ubisoft one, and all these other places and all the other stuff. Right? I like one stop shop type of
Mhm.
thing. It's also my biggest gripe about streaming, to be honest with you, is because it's not a one stop shop. This comes out on Paramount, this one comes out on Hulu, this one comes out on Netflix. Like,
Mhm.
damn it, I don't want all of that anymore. I
Right.
would just like to have it all one particular thing. But of course, that's a perfect world. But
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
See, I'm that type of guy that I and I don't know, just because the technology is getting better and
Mm-hmm.
smaller. Like I
Mm-hmm.
still have my PSP, I still have my PS Vita. You know,
Yeah.
I've got the Switch, I've got the Steam Deck, I've got this retro Amulet can. We still have the Nintendo 3DS.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know, I love handhelds.
Yeah.
I think I'm still gonna buy the PlayStation 5. That'll probably be my last physical, like, mainstream console.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do miss the experience of being able to play games uh premiumly on a big screen. I do miss that ability.
Sure.
Um, and I don't want to spend the $1,000 to try and build a PC again. I know it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done with it.
You know
That
what?
aspect of my life is done.
I will say though, I'm ready to pull the trigger and buy probably 2 more Steam Decks. I want to buy another Steam Deck, and I think just dedicated for emulation.
Okay.
And then I think I might buy a Steam Deck for someone else, but we'll
Okay.
see. Um, but Steam Decks is just, I don't know. They have everything to me, right? In my little ecosystem,
Hmm.
that it's hard for me to get away from it. Even, Switch was already on my bad side. It didn't take much for it to get knocked out
Right.
once I knew I can put my whole Steam library on a Steam Deck, right? And of course, there's certain games like Civ 5, I'm looking at you, that don't mix with that just yet. But the future looks kind of bright. I'll put it that way.
Right.
So we shall see. Well, Mike, it's been fun. And yeah, we need to do this next week, man. We
Yeah.
need to do this next
Absolutely.
week. Hopefully everything works as far as timing and everything, so we can get back on track, because you know what's going to happen. Summer's coming around. You got some big things coming up. I got some interesting things that are coming up. And hopefully we can still dedicate a decent portion of the summer to do some more awesome recording and keep this Nation 80 thing going, and do some gaming for that matter. So until the next one, keep your imagination up, and we'll see you on the next episode.